Okay, people, I think I'm live and direct. We are ready. Hopefully, everything is working. Everyone can hear me. It was all tested, so should be all worko. Very good, very good. I'm here today just for this quick live because I want to do a short video on this. I think it will be short. We'll see. If I have lots of people come in, then I'll do it a bit longer. If not, it will be short, and then I will go back to TikTok. Tony Holly 08 to begin with, and then later on Tony Holly 74 comes back at 8 p.m. So I shall be using that account because it's more popular. I might get a few more guests, but you know, I basically wanted to do this one anyway for now. And it is the refutation of the huge mistakes, made by Uganda Boy, Shaky Shake Uganda Boy, which was, of course, should have been refuted at the time, but wasn't. So I'm going to do the refutation of his mistakes. And it mainly evolves around Al Imran 52 and Al Imran 55. I'm not going to waste my time with Al Imran 54 because, they all misinterpret that into plan or planning. And of course, it doesn't say plan or planning. The Arabic word for plan or planning is a completely different one, from makara, makarin. It is deceive or scheme. Scheme is the closest translated word that you can use for the word in 354. But as I say, I'm not going to bother with that particular one at the moment. I'm just going to concentrate on Al Imran 52 and Al Imran 55 for simple reasons that those actually prove the crucifixion as well. 355 proves that the crucifixion actually happened. And that's why I'm going to concentrate on those two verses today. Well, 355 proves that the crucifixion happened. 352, as I say, that is just a verse where the Ugandan Shaky Shake, who, I know Arabiki, clearly didn't know any Arabiki, claimed that was talking about Muslims, okay? And it wasn't actually talking about Christians because it didn't use the word for Christians in the Quran, which is Nazarah or Nazarine. Okay, it comes from the root word Nazarene, and that's the word for Christians is Nazarai or Nazaran. Okay, and of course he was being a bit deceptive there because in the verse it uses the word twice, but instead of it being Nazarah or Nazrai with an N at the beginning, it's just Anzar or Anzaru or Anzari or Anzaru are the two words used. So it's got the word, but just missing the capital N. That's all. And of course, in that context, the word is actually meaning supporter or helper. And of course, in this place where it's talking about supporters of Jesus or helpers of Jesus, it's not talking about Muslims, clearly. Clearly, it's talking about Christians. Acts chapter 11, verse 26. They were first called Christians at the city of Antioch. And we get further proof from this as well, of course, from both the Quran and the Bible, because who are the supporters of Jesus? Who are the helpers of Jesus, as mentioned in this verse, Al Imran 52, who Ugandan Boy tried to claim were Muslims. Well, let's go through the names, shall we, of these Muslim supporters of Jesus, of these Muslim helpers of Jesus. Because, of course, you can't get the names from the Quran, but we can get the names from the Bible. And, of course, they are Simon Peter. Doesn't sound very muzzy, does he? Andrew. Doesn't sound very muzzy, does he? James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. Well, actually, Simon Peter and Andrew were brothers as well, both not sounding muzzy. James and John, brothers, son of Zebedee, doesn't sound very muzzy. Philip doesn't sound very muzzy. Bartholomew, or Nathanael, as he was sometimes called, again, doesn't sound very muzzy. Matthew, definitely doesn't sound muzzy. One of the gospel writers. Thomas doesn't sound very good, muzzy. James, the son of Alphaeus, he's actually one of the people who's actually sometimes confused as being the real brother of Jesus. James, the son of Alphaeus, by the way. Again, doesn't sound very muzzy, does it? Thaddeus, or also known as Jude, the son of James. Again, doesn't sound very muzzy, does it? Simon the Zealot doesn't sound very muzzy. And Judas Iscariot. None of them sound extremely muzzy, do they? No, that's because they're not. As Ugandan, I'm a shaky shake boy, tried to prove with this debate, and as should have quite rightly been pulled up for that. But sadly wasn't. And as I said from the Quran as well, that's because Simon Peter and John are both mentioned as apostles sent by Allah to the city of Antioch in Surah 36, ayah 13. So there you go, folks. That's the helpers and supporters of Jesus Christ, as mentioned in Al Imran 52. Clearly not muzzos. Very much so not muzzos. Clearly Christians. So that's the Ugandan shaky shake boy refuted within a few seconds. Now let's move on to another verse that he mentioned, which, as I say, wasn't picked up on at the time, but certainly should have been picked up on, was Al Imran 55. And this is a verse where if you read the majority of the transliterations, then they mistranslate one of the words within the verse, which is mutawafika. Okay, and anybody who speaks Arabiki, even a Ugandan, Africano boy, would tell you the meaning of mutawafika is cause you to die or cause your death. Okay, and this is what it says in Al Imran 55, strangely enough. Before we go there, we go to 1933. 1933 is again talking about Jesus and his birth, and it mentions, bless the day you were born, bless the day you will die, and bless the day you will be raised back to life again. Okay, and Christians always claim this is talking about the crucifixion. And if you use that verse in conjunction with Al Imran 55, you can prove that it is in fact talking about the crucifixion, because Al Imran 55 is definitely talking about the crucifixion, and the Muslims won't deny that. It's talking about when he was on the cross, and they say Allah took him off the cross before he unalived and raised him to himself. Sadly, the verse doesn't say that. Like I say, the verse uses the word mutawathika, which is a word that says cause to die or cause your death. Then he raised him to himself. And of course, there's even discrepancies amongst the Muslim scholars as to whether he actually raised Jesus to himself, because they're saying that the word used there in the Arabiki actually means to exalt and not to raise. Because, they're saying that if it's talking about a geezer bod, which in this case it is Jesus, and it doesn't mean actually to raise, it just means to exalt. So even the Arabiki scholars cannot decide on the correct transliteration of Al Imran 55. And this is why, you know, the Arabic Quran is a book of Quran. That's definitely not for the whole world, because it just can't be translated into the majority of languages correctly. And there are, you know, you could argue and argue and argue to your pink, green, blue, yellow and purple with blue, you know, grey spots in the boat race over the meanings of the verses. But of course, there is no arguing over the word mutafika, mutawa thika, okay? Mutawa thika only has one meaning: cause to die or cause your death. It's used throughout the Quran quite a lot, and every other time it's translated correctly: cause to die, cause your death. This is the one time in the Quran where it's not translated correctly. However, during my research on this particular topic, I managed to come across 14 translations where they do actually translate it as cause to you to die, cause your death, terminate your life, take your soul, or terminate the period of your life on earth. Okay, and all of those 14, with the exception of Prophet Google and the OXP, and I had to do a bit of research into finding out who the OXP was, and they are believed to be the Oxford University. Okay, so with the exception of Google translation, OXP translation, which is believed to be Oxford University translation, and two gentlemen, one called George Sale and the other called J.M. Rodwell. Okay, so the other 10 translations are all Muslim. Okay, they're all Muzi. Muhammad Assad, Dari Radi, the Clear Quran. Two versions of the Clear Quran, Kawari, Mudadi, Mulana Ali, Shakir, and Khalifa. Okay, all of those translations from Muzis all translate it as cause you to die, cause your death, unalive, Allah unalive Jesus before he raised him to himself. Okay, one of them, quite absurdly, let's just pick this one out because I thought this was rather funny. Oh, it's the OXP actually. The OXP version actually translated it as cause you to die from natural causes. How you literally cause somebody to die from natural causes, I have no idea. But anyway, there were some more interesting facts that I found out in my studies, and not least of all that the English translation of the Arabic Quran, okay, because there is one that is slightly earlier, but that was translated from French, okay. So they first of all translated the Arabic into French, and then some geese came along and translated the French into Inglo, okay. So I'm not including that in this particular study because that's Cheeto as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to know what was the direct first translation of the proper Arabic into Inglo. And guess what, folks? The oldest translation of the English Quran from Arabic to English by a Muslim is less than 100 years old. Less than 100 years old, 95 years, and that's the Pickthall translation. And every other single translation, including the 10 that I've mentioned, all date from the same years, 1930 up till today, 2025. Okay, less than 100 years old. The oldest copy I found of a translation of the Quran from Arabic into English was the George Sale translation from 1734, 290 years old. George Sale was a Christian. And he is one of the ones, as I say, who actually translated Al Imran 55 correctly. Cause to die. This is exactly what the verse says. Let me read the exact translation of 355, word for word. You, Jesus. So Alleluia is speaking to Jesus. He's telling him, you, Jesus, I am making you die. Okay? Literally, Alleluia is telling Jesus, I am making you die, Jesus. Then I am raising you to me. I am purifying you from those who disbelieve and making those who follow you above the disbelievers to the resurrection day. This thee to me is your return, so I will judge between you and whoever got things wrong. That's the exact translation of Al Imran 55. Very rarely will you find an exact translation of a verse in the Quran. For some reason, they don't like to translate the Quran correctly. No idea why. Who knows why. But there you go. That's the exact translation. Okay. Jesus Christ definitely died before Allah raised him to himself. Okay. Where he currently is now. Now, like I say, if you use 1933 on its own, bless the day you were born, bless the day you were dying, bless the day you will be raised back up, they will say, oh yeah, that's talking about the day of resurrection. Because the Muslims firmly believe that Jesus is going to come back on the day of resurrection, break every cross, kill every pig, and unalive the Dajjal, unalive Satan, Allah's greatest enemy. Then Allah is going to unalive Jesus. Then Allah is going to raise Jesus back to life again. For some strange reason, that's their misconception of what's going to happen on the day of resurrection, which makes no sense at all. But like I say, when you then use 1933 in conjunction with Al Imran 55, no, it's not talking about the day of resurrection no more, is it? Because this is clearly talking about before the resurrection. Allah unalived Jesus and raised him to himself, where he currently sits today. Like I say, and you can get the clearest distinction of that from the verses that precede it. Which is why I said, really, you need to look at 352 through to 355. 352 is the argument, with the Ugandan Afrikaani shaky shake, who's less of a shaky shake than I am of my booty as an old 65-year-old man. Okay, certainly much less of a shaky shake than that. He's the one who said this is not talking about the Christians, where it says that Jesus, who is Jesus's helpers and supporters in the way of Allalalu, and we are your supporters and helpers in the way of Allalululalu. And like I say, who were Jesus's supporters and helpers? The disciples and the apostles. And again, strangely enough, most of these people here who have translated 355 with cause to die in it, also translated 352 with the word of apostles or disciples in the place of supporters or helpers for Jesus. The apostles or disciples. George Sale, J.M. Rodwell, apostles. Mawadi, disciples. Kawawi was apostles. Mulani Ali was apostles. Shakir was disciples. Khalifia was disciples. Muhammad Assad was disciples, as was Dariyabadi. And the Clear Quran also was disciples. So, Clearly, it is the apostles and the disciples. As mentioned already previously by myself, Simon Peter, Andrew, James, and John, son of Zebedee, Philip, Bartholomew, sometimes also known as Nathanael, Matthew, Thomas, James of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot. Those are the people who are mentioned in Al-Imran 52. It then goes on to mention Al-Imran 54, which again is talking about the crucifixion. The Jews schemed and plotted and deceived deceive the Romans to crucify Jesus, but Al-Lula also schemed, plotted and deceived, and he is by far the best plotter, deceiver, schemer, and so he won out. And then of course the next verse, Al-Imran 55, I will cause you to die, Jesus, then raise you to myself. So clearly it is talking about the crucifixion. Clearly it is saying the crucifixion happened. Clearly it is saying that Jesus unalived on the cross. Oh dear. Big problemo for the Muzzies. Islamic Dilemma 3.0. This is the problem as well with this silly book. The dilemmas within this book never stop. Sadly, I've gone down to 2 people, folks. So I'm going to leave it there. No point in me continuing, without the support, which clearly I'm not getting on Tubi. Whether that's something to do with Tubi or not, I don't know. Them not pushing it out, probably. As I say, I don't know. I don't understand it. But there you go. This same everywhere I go, this happens. Okay, I went on Clubhouse. I had the same problem. I didn't get the support from even my own brothers and sisters, and so consequently, the Muslims wouldn't come to chat with me because my own brothers and sisters weren't supporting me. And it's one of the reasons why I eventually left Clubhouse because I was there for quite a long time, and every time I started a room up with a very good topic, no one would join it. Absolutely no one. And I thought, okay, well, let's stop using this and go back to Toki Toki because at least I got a bit of support with Toki Toki. And so I did. I went back to Toki Toki, but of course I get unfairly prosecuted and unfairly persecuted on Toki Toki, which is a shame, and that makes that not very viable, really. And all the way through that, even Clubhouse and Toki Toki time, I've been using this app as well. And again, this app never, ever, ever taken off. Never, ever had the support from anybody, which is, as I say, probably part and parcel reason why. Because you do need, support and help on social media to get it, up and running. If you don't have that support, then it's not going to work because, the algorithms are from the actual social media site, so the algorithms come from YouTube, the algorithms come from TikTok, the algorithms come from Facebook, the algorithms come from Instagram, and the more people who tune in, the more people who hit like, the more people who comment while you're on, that shows them, that people are interested, people do want to listen, and then they start to push it. And of course, when they start to push it, it goes out to more and more and more and more people who wouldn't even bother to watch or listen, who do then start watching and listening. But of course, as I say, without that first initial support from the people themselves, then it's not going to happen. And sadly, that's what the case is. Maybe I'm just an old fart. No one wants to listen to an old fart. I'm an ugly old fart that no one wants to listen to. Fair enough. no problem with that. But of course, you know, there's very few places where you can actually get the truth and the honest word, and gems like, you know, the English translation of the Quran is less than 100 years old. And the oldest translation of the English Quran by a Muslim, the oldest translation of the English Quran is by an English Christian, 291 years old, George Sal. You won't get those gems anywhere else. I guarantee you won't. Because, you know, most other people don't do those sorts of studies, you know, as they're studying along, and even notice things like that, you know. But there you go. Anyway, I'm going to end it here, folks. That's long enough for this particular video. I think I have, you know, refuted the Ugandan Afrikaani, you know, African wannabe shaky shake on Al Imran 52. They were not Muslims. They were not considered as Muslims. They were considered apostles and disciples. They were considered supporters of Jesus Christ, and they were called Christians at the first opportunity in the book of Acts 11:26, 600 years before this verse even came along. So if they were called Christians 600 years before that verse, then hence they must still be called Christians at the time that verse came along. And of course, I've given you all the names, none of them Muzzy names. So we can conclusively say that Al Imran 52 is definitely talking about Christians, the supporters of Jesus Christ. And Al Imran 55 is definitely talking about the crucifixion, where Jesus died at the crucifixion, okay, and then was raised up to Allelujah. So definitely the crucifixion happened. And it also goes on to mention at the end of Al Imran 55, our Allelujah will protect those supporters of Jesus over and above anyone else until the day of resurrection, similar to how it does in 61:14. So all those Christians, all those followers of Jesus Christ who are Christians, will be supported by Allelujah until the day of resurrection, including Simon Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas. Well, not Judas Iscariot, of course. We know he's not protected anymore. He was replaced by Matthias, but of course Matthias will be. So all of the apostles are protected by Allelujah until the day of judgment. And of course, it proves our gospels at the same time, folks. How wonderful is that? Gospel written by Matthew, the gospel written by John, two of the names mentioned in Al Imran 52 and Ashura 36, ayah 13, mentioned in 61:14. Okay, they are all protected by Lulu until the day of resurrection. And of course, that would include their writings, of course, as well. Oh dear. John's Gospel, which says Jesus Christ is God from start to finish, over 300 times, I think it is. Matthew's Gospel, that says Jesus Christ is God. Oh dear, written by people who Allelujah said he will protect them until the day of resurrection. Al Imran 52. Such a shame that, you know, this wasn't pointed out at the time. Two shaky shake, Ugandan shaky shake UTI. You know, I would have made sure that that idiot looked like a complete idiot that he was, because he doesn't know Arabic. He certainly doesn't know shaky shake unless he goes in McDonald's and orders a banana milkshake. That's the only shaky shake he actually knows. And it's so obvious to have done that just from the verses he picked out. Al Imran 52, Al Imran 54, and Al Imran 55, because he got every single one of them wrong. And I've just corrected you on every single one of them, sir. let me just correct you quickly one more time with the words in all the verses. So we have Azari and Azaru, okay, in 352. Azari, supporters, Azaru, helper of Jesus Christ. Supporters and helpers, Jesus Christ, apostles, disciples, okay, and a word closely linked to Nazarah, the word that you dispelled as not being in the verse, even though it's there twice. But of course, we don't expect you to know Arabiki, Ugandan boy. And of course, Mutawafika from 355 calls you to die, and not again least forgetting Al Imran 54, planning. It doesn't say planning, it never said planning. The Arabic word for planning is completely different from the word scheme, which is the closest to this, and of course a scheme and a plan are again two different things. Although you are planning to do something, with a plan, you can plan a holiday, you can plan a shopping trip, you can plan a birthday, something nice. With a scheme, this plan is never ever a nice plan. It's always a devious plan. It's always a deceiving plan. And that is the closest word to Al Imran 54, makara, makarin, scheme, devious, deceitful, liar. Mr. Alalula, you're a big fat liar. That's where I will end it. Okay, folks. God bless you all. Peace of Christ to you all. Hope to see all three of you in my Tiki Toki later on. God bless.